Pretty deep. You're one of the good guys, huh?
I like to consider myself one, and we need more out there that are crusading, as opposed to people getting ripped off.
That's very admirable of you, sir. um, are your plans just to work in the Baltimore area, or are you planning to branch out?
Well, currently my office is right on the outskirts of Baltimore. Being born and raised here and just getting things started, the majority of my clients are in the Maryland area. But I'm currently in the works of getting reciprocal licenses throughout other states, with plans of opening up offices all across the United States. So everyday people, be sure to keep a close eye on the website, and follow where we all are headed, because rest assured there will be an office of ours in your state soon enough.
Sounds good to me. Whenever you come to New York, I'll be the first one at your door. I'll camp out.
Hey, as long as I can get some White Castle, I'll be right there.
Oh no, you don't want none of that. I'm gonna ask you an interesting question. A lot of people probably are everybody in this world, actually the global economy are suffering for the most part. You got some countries such as Germany, to name one, who aren't really feeling the strains of the economy as far as the infrastructure is concerned. However, they are feeling the strain when it comes to like the European Union. My question to you is not going to be global, but more domestic. What are your thoughts on the current economic status of this country, the United States of America?
Well, you really don't have to be much into politics to know that we're in a crisis, and it's not something that happened overnight. In all honesty, I really believe that there are things going on behind the scenes that many people don't know. I believe, my personal opinion, is that there are forces at work to actually keep people broke. I believe that there is a plan to take people back to slavery days, where you had the masters, the owners of the plantations, and you had slaves that had to work for them forever. And even when they abolished slavery, the slaves were free, but where would they go? They had no homes, they had nothing. So what they ended up doing is borrowing money from the slave owners to maybe start another crop somewhere else, and then they had to pay back the owners of the lands in high interest rates. So they found themselves again working only for the for the owner, for their master, and I feel as though that's where America is headed right now, where everyone, or most people, would become dependent on jobs. If you were to think about it, 100 years ago, 90% of people owned everything. 90% of people own everything. Well, 90% of people own everything, and you had 10% of the people that worked for the 90%. Everybody was an entrepreneur 100 years ago for the most part. Blacksmith, farmer, whatever the case may be. Now you think about it, 100 years later, it totally reversed. 10% of people own everything, and they've convinced the other 90% to come and work for them. And I feel as though that it's just the lack of education. I remember some time ago hearing my mom talk to one of her girlfriends on the phone, and she says, "Girl, I'm making more money than ever before, but I can't seem to get ahead." Of course, if you get a raise on your job of 3%, but inflation is averaging 4%, most people don't know they're just falling behind, slowly but surely, because they're lacking that education. You think you're making more money, but you're not. So what's missing really is that education, and people just don't know. So they're going to continue to fall behind. And it starts with your family. You know, they say, you know, how do you change the world? Well, you start with yourself. Well, as it relates to the economy right now and the way things are going, you have to get you and your home in order first. The best way to help a poor person is to not be one of them. So families need to take personal responsibility for where they are. And as families begin to get on track financially, then I honestly believe that we will come out of the crisis that we're in. Currently, we just have too many people that are dependent upon the government, looking for a handout, waiting on their ship to come in, but they're waiting at the airport for their ship to come in. It's not going to happen. You have to get out there and make it happen and take control, one family at a time. And as families begin to get on track financially, individually, then as a whole, the United States will do a lot better.
Cool, cool. So, if you were President Obama's economic advisor, what would you advise him to do to turn things around?
Wow. Starting with the homes. The education is missing. In all your years of schooling, I'll ask you to declare, but the question is generated to everyone and everyday people. I really want you to think about this. In all your years of schooling, have you ever had algebra growing up in school?
I grew up in a private school. I mean, I was raised in a private school, and the answer is actually yes. In 7th grade, we were learning trigonometry.
Call it trigonometry is what should
I think 8th grade was... I forget. I can't recall. No, 7th grade was algebra, if I remember right. Man, it was geometry, trigonometry, and algebra. We learned it like between the 7th and 8th grade.
And most people do around that time, but certainly, by the 9th grade, you would have had taken algebra. But let me ask you, in the year 2011, how many times did you use algebra?
Knowingly, I don't know. I would have to say never.
In many cases, it is never. Now, there may be some folks out there watching, everyday people, well, the answer is once or twice, or, maybe their job requires them to look at algebra all day because they're a professor. But the bulk of people out there, the answer, I use algebra no times in 2011.
You know what I find interesting? So I went to school, college, I went to college, the best college on the planet. I know you went to Brogan State, so second best. The best college on the planet was Grambling State University, and they didn't have an entrepreneurship course, and it kind of bothered me. And I don't think they still have one in the curriculum. I think across the board in this country, even from elementary school, well, you can't learn how to be an entrepreneur in elementary school, but in a school where they teach you how to become an adult, which is what college should help you do to become an overall person, I've never known much schools to have an entrepreneurship curriculum. And that kind of bothers me. And I think that's a direct reflection of the state we're in as a country right now.
At Morgan State, we did have a business management class. But if you really listen to that, it's not a business ownership class. It's a business management class. They're teaching you how to manage a business. And if you do have universities out there that have classes that you could take for entrepreneurship, the instructor has never as much owned a lemonade stand. So you got someone out there that's supposed to be teaching you business, but is just reading a book. So that's a problem within itself. But as it relates to, if I was Obama's right-hand man and teaching him what to do to turn things around in the economy, you never took algebra. You took algebra in school, but you didn't use algebra in 2011. Have you ever had a class in college or in high school called Money 101? What I mean by Money 101 is a class that taught you how to read a life insurance policy, a class that taught you how to pick your investments, a class that taught you how to pay a mortgage, or how to pick a mortgage. Did you ever have that class growing up?
Never.
Never had a class that taught you money.
I didn't even learn about money until I didn't understand what the definition of money was until Jay-Z had that song called Money, Cash, and Other Stuff. And a good friend of mine in college told me that money and cash were two different things. And a lot of people to this day still that I interact with don't understand the difference between cash and money.
And a lot of people don't understand the difference between assets and liabilities. They think your biggest asset is a home when it's not. If you don't own the home, it's not an asset, it's a liability. But I could go on and on about total wealth of that. So I would just say, that people never learned money in school, but yet they use money every single day. So I would talk to President Obama about going into the schools and having programs out there that teaching people at an earlier age, more about money and more about finances.
So let me ask you a question. For the everyday people, what advice you have for them? If they were if you were their right-hand man, what advice would you give to them for their personal space of economic growth?
Seek out the information. Seek out the education. You can find me, out through the community. Definitely through everyday people through the website. But there's information out there, that could help. I'm going to be doing seminars, to spread the word of information out there to families, but not only from a standpoint of finances to get your life together as a whole, again, not just financially, but just as one whole unit. I really encourage education, not just financially, but read good books. One of my favorite books out there, the first book I probably read in its entirety, it's called The Magic of Thinking Big, because everything starts with your thoughts. Even if you're not, a guru with finances, your life would change. I promise you, your life would change if you read at least one good book a month. You can read some of the little trashy novels too, but if you want to change your life, become a good reader.
So we're gonna wrap this up. I want the everyday people to know how to contact you, so they could, get some of your knowledge.
Okay. Well, currently, right now, everyday people, we're still in the works of putting together a few things on a website. So you can reach out to me there within a matter of about 2 weeks. I'm actually going to have a toll-free number so that people in different states can call me at no cost to them. So be on the lookout for that, everyday people.